The actions of Billy Lovelady were covered up in various ways, and I want to go through those quickly with a little extra emphasis on the involvement of James Richard Worrell, because that information is a new conclusion for me. Billy Lovelady was the man seen with a rifle in the sixth floor window. He was presented as a visual decoy because he looks much like Oswald, and the point was to blame Oswald. He was not actually firing the rifle, he was a visual decoy. James Alkins and Charles Brem cooperated in faking the Alkins 6 photo to give Billy Lovelady an alibi for the time of the shooting by pasting his face onto Joe Molina in the doorway. Alkins was there before the president came by, and he photographed Billy Lovelady in the doorway, but he had to stay there in the same position, so Charles Brem was over on Houston Street taking the Alkins 4 and 5 photos. And then when the president came by, Alkins took another photo, and Billy Lovelady was no longer in the doorway at this time, so the first photo was used to take the face of Billy Lovelady and put it into the second photo onto a man who happened to be Joe Molina, even though I don't think that was the original plan. But this is the quick version. Danny Arche and Jack Doherty, though I'm talking about Danny Arche here, both participated in this faking of the Alkins, well, not in the faking of the Alkins photo, but in the faking of the idea of the location of Shelley and Lovelady. As Danny Arche was dressed in this coat that could be mistaken for Shelley, and Danny Arche lied about his location at the time of the shooting so that we could think that he and Jack Doherty were Shelley and Lovelady, but Shelley and Lovelady were coming down in the elevator from the 6th floor. So this thing is a pre-planned event. They planned in advance to fake the photography and to have Arche and Doherty as visual decoys outside of the building who could be mistaken for Shelley and Lovelady. But the account of Vickie Adams threw a monkey wrench into this plan because she saw Shelley and Lovelady inside the building at this time. Adams said she saw Shelley and Lovelady on the 1st floor about 1 minute after the shooting, at a time when both are supposed to be still outside. And Vickie Adams was not alone. She was with Sandra Stiles coming down the stairs and going out the building. The Coverup sought to discredit Vickie Adams because her story put Shelley and Lovelady inside the building 1 minute after the shots, which allows for the possibility that one or both of them could have come down from the 6th floor, which at least Lovelady did, and probably both of them. One way they did this was to ignore Sandra Stiles, who had accompanied Adams. Another way they tried to discredit Vickie Adams was to speed up the reenactment time for how long it took Marion Baker to get inside the building and up to the 2nd floor after the last shot was fired. They went, as Marion Baker said, it took me longer than what the Warren Commission estimates were. The Warren Commission reenactments of Baker's time to get to the stairway were minimized in order to make it seem impossible that Vickie Adams could have come down the stairs before Baker and Truly went up. And also, the Warren Commission didn't look into the fact that Marion Baker said he saw 2 white men near the elevators, which is where Victoria Adams had seen Shelley and Lovelady. Baker saw 2 white men, probably Shelley and Lovelady, near the elevators when he got there. No attempt was made by investigators to identify these men, even though Roy Truly, who was with Baker at the time, could have been asked. And of course, Roy Truly would know Shelley and Lovelady. And another way that was used to discredit Vickie Adams was the coercion of Eddie Piper. Eddie Piper was persuaded to deny Vickie Adams. And you can see on top there, Piper denies Vickie Adams. But Ball asked him, did Vickie Adams come down before Truly and the policeman, went up the steps? No, sir, she didn't do it. That's a denial, and this coercion involved planting a story with Thayer Waldo. Secret Service agents planted a story with Thayer Waldo about a Negro janitor having witnessed the assassination on the 6th floor. And there's only one Negro janitor, and it's Eddie Piper. And Arnold Rowland, for the first time on the record, told the Warren Commission that he saw an elderly Negro in the 6th floor window. That could only be Eddie Piper. And then, and you see the timeline I have in the bottom right-hand corner. That's the order it happened. The newspaper article was published on February 10th, 1964. Arnold Rowland testified about the elderly Negro, March 10th, 1964. And then Piper testified and denied Vickie Adams on May 15th, 1964. And the witness, Worrell, was used in a roundabout way to discredit Vickie Adams. Part of this is a new interpretation for me, and part of it is not. James Richard Worrell, Jr. was a conspiracy witness engaged to witness the muzzle flash of the 6th floor rifle. That is, he said he saw the rifle firing, not just the guy with the rifle, but he saw the muzzle flash. And this is important because, as I said, Billy Lovelady was not firing the rifle. He was just pointing it as a visual decoy. So we have a witness to establish that the rifle was being fired. The escape of Oswald from the Texas School Book Depository, the fact that Oswald was not carrying anything, and the fact that Oswald did not have a bald spot on his head. And Worrell's description of the fleeing suspect was tailored to match Marion Baker's description of Oswald. Worrell says he's 5'8" to 5'10". Worrell says he's 5'8" to 5'10". Marion Baker said 5'9". Worrell said he had dark hair. Marion Baker said he had dark hair. Worrell said he was average weight. Marion Baker said he was 165 pounds. And Worrell said he had a dark shirt or jacket open down the front. And Marion Baker said it was a light brown jacket. But I think this is very close, and I think it was designed to be very close. I think Worrell was given this information in order to establish that it was Oswald whom he saw leaving the building. Worrell's description also fits the radio description of the suspect. Now, this is from an FBI document. An unidentified individual told Inspector Sawyer that he had seen an individual run from the Texas School Book Depository building. This individual was an unknown white male, approximately 30, slender build, 5'10", 165 pounds, carrying what looked to be a .30-30 or some type of Winchester rifle. Inspector Sawyer then contacted Dallas Police Sergeant G.D. Hensley, who was a dispatcher, and the dispatcher read that description on the radio. And as I said, the Worrell description fits that, but one thing Worrell adds is he didn't have anything in his hands. So I think what's being set up here is for anyone looking into this to think that Worrell might have been the unidentified individual who gave the description, but now he's correcting the misunderstanding about that person carrying a Winchester. He didn't have anything in his hands. I think that was another bit of information that was given to Worrell for him to tell. Now on the bottom here I've got Ewens. Ewens heard, well, let me read that. Inspector says, "Were you there when the man talked about somebody running out the back?" The person running out the back is Winchester man. And Ewens says, "Yes, sir. He said the man had. He said he had kind of a bald spot on his head." So Winchester man, although Sawyer didn't give this detail out, according to Ewens, the unidentified individual who gave Sawyer the description, also said he had a bald spot on his head. And so Worrell sets up the denial of a bald spot. He says here that he wasn't wearing a hat. And when he testifies to the Warren Commission, he said he didn't have a bald spot. So I think it's clear that Worrell was set up as a conspiracy witness, a cover-up witness, in order to clear up all this stuff about Winchester Man, and to explain how Oswald left the building. But the cover-up decided to sacrifice Worrell's account and repurpose him to introduce a new witness to further discredit Vickie Adams. So a newspaper story is published about Worrell cueing James Elbert Romack to come forward, ostensibly to expose Worrell's story as false. Romack is another conspiracy hired witness, and supposedly he just read this account in the newspaper and he said, "Oh no, that was wrong, I was there, I'd better go tell them." But Romack's real purpose is to discredit Vickie Adams by saying that nobody came out the northeast door of the Texas School Book Depository. And Romack is not the most articulate of witnesses, so Mr. Bellin has to ask him a couple of leading questions. In other words, then, as I understand your testimony, you said that from about the time of the shots until about 5 minutes after the shots, you watched the back door of the building? Right. What is the fact as to whether or not you saw anyone leave the building? There wasn't anyone left the building. So what Romack is doing here is he's saying that for 5 minutes after the shots were fired, nobody came out that door. And, of course, that's to discredit Vickie Adams. We know that Vickie Adams and Sandra Stiles came out that door, but it also discredits Worrell, because Worrell said that essentially Oswald came out that door. He didn't name Oswald, but that's what the meaning of his testimony was. So the cover-up is throwing Worrell under the bus here in order to deny Vickie Adams, because Vickie Adams is a very dangerous witness, because if she's correct, if what she's saying is true, and it is, that means that Shelley and Lovelady were inside of the building when they said they were outside of the building, and that means that one or both of them were on the 6th floor and they came down in the elevator before Vickie Adams got to the 1st floor on the stairs. And they're still discrediting Vickie Adams to this day. Barry Ernest, and he appeared recently in Oliver Stone's latest thing, Barry Ernest continues the cover-up with his bastardization of the Vickie Adams story. I'm not going to get into the details of that, but that's my judgment. I'm not going to get into the details of that. So Billy Lovelady was an important actor in this operation. He did not shoot the president. He didn't actually fire any shots with a rifle, but he was there so that people could think reasonably that Oswald was in the window, because Billy Lovelady is easily mistaken for Lee Harvey Oswald, and this was planned in advance with the cooperation of more than one person, including James Alkins. And when they had to cover it up afterwards, they went to great lengths to do so, because this would unravel the whole thing if people realized that Billy Lovelady was on the 1st floor 1 minute after the shots had been fired.